All right, the weekly Alaboom is now live. I have a veritable. Hey, we got rid of the girls. All we got is boys this time around.
Manpower.
Yes. No, that.
Boys.
Looks like we got Barry Reynolds. We got Mr. Kirkman. We got Keith. We got Marty, and we got Matt. I'm not going to bother introducing what you guys do. You can go ahead and put that on your little screen. So, I came downstairs, and Matt and Marty were in a hearty discussion about XCOM, and I made them stop talking about it so they could open up. So, paraphrase in the beginning, Marty, you were having misgivings about the game, correct?
So I've played this game 5 times. I love the game, but the dice rolls can be brutal, and it's one of those things. I guess it's like a lot of co-op games. When the game starts snowballing against you, it's hard to push that snowball back up the hill, and this game is the same way. And the snowballs come in the effect of bad dice rolls. And so Matt and I were talking one way to mitigate bad dice rolls with special abilities that's given to you by the research cards. And I haven't been doing a good job of getting a lot of research done early, and Matt had the suggestion of use a lot of your emergency funds early, get a lot of scientists out there to get those research cards you need to mitigate against the bad luck, and so I'm going to try that this weekend. Did I get that right, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of what we've done for. I mean, I've only had a couple of games in, but that's what we've done, and it seemed to have worked out. The big cards we relied on were the like the extra money, the 2 extra credits every round was big. Being able to put those satellites on the card, and another one we had was taking a satellite and putting it to remove a UFO. So it really helped us keep our panic reduced, and we had those from very early in the game, and that just really helped us keep that stuff in check. So even stuff where you could look at the continents and be like, all right, well, there's 4 there. That continent's kind of screwed, but it's, let's take one of them off of there, and we'll put 1 ship there, 1 interceptor. We'll see how they do. It just kind of helped us reduce some of the craziness because we had a little bit of control over it. I think that's what that game's all about, just getting as much control as you can of every little bit of things. And again, you're at the mercy of the dice at the end of the day, but getting as much control over every little thing as you possibly can, and then giving it your best shot. And the cards absolutely help with that. Research is amazing for that.
I want to jump in just before you respond to that. A couple of quick things. Do you play it timed, or are you still playing it on easy mode? So like you actually.
I play on normal.
Yeah, we play on normal.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you actually? I know a lot of people it's like, oh, we ran out of time or whatever. Oh well, so that's fine. We can still go ahead and do whatever we're planning on doing or whatever. So I mean, I know some people there's that kind of cheating aspect to it a little bit. Not that I mean, play the game how you want, obviously. Mm-hmm. The other thing I always worry about is a lot of people say, oh, you just take all that money right away, and then a lot of people don't realize that you actually don't get to save money between turns.
Yes.
So make sure as long as you're playing it that way, that's like the big thing. I'm like that's like a very, very common mistake or whatever that people are like, well, it's like, oh yeah, just take all the money right away. You can just keep it, and no, it's just like the government. You have to spend it all, or else you'll lose it.
Exactly. No, we play that way too. We actually, my friend who's very, very mathematical, very mechanical in games, and that was the first thing he said. He goes, why the hell don't we just spend all our money every time? It's so stupid. Just take all the emergency funds. And I was like, well, you don't get to keep it. He's like, oh, that changes everything. So that's a big part. And I wouldn't say take everything, but taking a good chunk of that emergency fund, if you've got the research cards on deck that you really want to nail that success on, I think that can be really important. Again, it really depends what you draw, but if you draw some good stuff that can help you out, that's big.
I will say,
it's my opinion. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ryan.
I was going to say, you mentioned the point about cheating with the app. It is very easy to do in that, hey, scientist, or pick up your cards, and as they're drawing, okay, I'm done, but they're not really done, and you press done. That kind of stuff I've seen going on a lot, not only in my games but the other games. So it's hard not to do that. If somebody's like deploying units, okay, I'm done, as they're still deploying.
Right.
And then you're banking the time, and then at the end, when you have the ability, the chance to play your final timed things, maybe you go over a little more than what you're supposed to. So I think that's the tough part of the game, is to try to strictly play by that time limit that you're given.
I agree with that. I definitely do. We've done our best to stay within those constraints, but I mean, then I'll use the pause time. I'll see, I'll have Isaac here will be talking with, the commander, and he's like, they're chatting about something. I'm like, guys, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, and they just keep talking. They don't respond to me at all. So I'm like, I'm pausing, and they'll pause and I'll talk, and I'm like, are you done? Are you done? Are you done? And I'm yelling at them because I'm watching the pause time tick away. And then we finally just have to hit done because they actually do finish. But it's tempting to want to sit there and be like, okay, well he's reaching for the deck. I'm gonna hit done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you make a great point there. We've done our best to not do that, but there's definitely been times. I mean, especially in our first few games where, we've thought about, there's an extra, like we've completely run out of all our time. The round is over, but we go, hey, this time round thing. Well, let's move this thing real quick. Like the last. We take an extra 3 or 4 seconds to move something we didn't think about at that moment, and sure, that's absolutely cheating, no question. But in our first few games, we're kind of like, we're still learning, it's okay. But yeah, we understand that that's against the rules 100%.
Now, out of everybody else who's just listening and being patient with us, has anybody else played it besides the three of us? I mean, Keith, have you played it? Barry? Chris?
No, I haven't played it. I fear that you get a little bit of the tangential conversations like we tend to get at game night, and you're just screwed in that game.
Yeah, there's no time for that.
Oh, yeah.
During the resolution phase, you can talk all you want.
Yes.
Right. It's high on my list because it's my favorite Xbox game. It's been my favorite for years. I mean, if you go all the way back to the original XCOM, and it's one that I've been wanting to get. It's one of those that's going to be probably hard for me to get to the table with our group, but I'm hoping to. I mean, Dan Patrice will probably be all over too, but I just haven't picked it up yet. I want to though, and I'm excited. Ever since it was released at Gen Con or the news was, and I want to get it to the table. So it's good to hear you guys are really playing it a lot and experiencing a lot. I've been following vicariously.
I'll send you my copy for your copy of Agizia. It's right there. It's right there behind you. It would be so easy. You could just reach back, put it in a box,
You want that one? That one right there? I don't think so.
Oh, well.
But I appreciate the offer. You're kind to offer.
Yes. What about you, Barry? You played it at all?
No, I watched some long-winded Viking talk about it, and I got a pre-order holding it up. It should have been here by now, but last night I watched a bunch of guys play it, and like you were saying, the game beat them up real bad. They ended up losing by spending too much money.
Yeah. This dovetails a bit into my thoughts about the game a little bit because of the fact that you mentioned a few bad dice rolls or a few bad card draws and you're kind of behind the 8 ball. And the thing is, you can kind of say that, in my opinion, about most co-ops. And what actually I think what bridges the gap between a co-op that hits the table more often for me and one that gets relegated to my trade shelf is that it has to have an engaging theme or a story that gets everybody in the table excited, win or lose. And I think that's the big difference. Because most co-ops, I think, are kind of based on the same premise where it's just like, all right, at the very beginning it's kind of easy and everybody's going okay, and then you kind of stumble a little bit. It's like, if you ever see those, I mean, you shouldn't laugh, but those videos of the people on the motorcycles that when they start, they hit the level and the wheel starts going back and forth and it starts getting worse and worse and worse, and you sit there and you're waiting for them to flip over the top. And it's just so that's kind of like what I see co-op games is trying to ride down that hill and make it to the bottom without smashing your face in. And but as long as the ride is fun, then I think it's a good game.
So did anybody see the review that Shut Up and Sit Down did on it?
Ooh, I did.
I can't remember which one reviewed it. He didn't care for it at all. He said he just saw it as 4 mini games that didn't interact with each other and all. Thought it was pretty boring.
Oh, really? I thought it was. Well, what I took away. Are you talking about the one with Quins? Maybe there was somebody else.
It just came out this week, and at the very end, it shows Paul playing by himself.
Yeah. I thought what I took away from it was that he said it was a good game and it was really exciting and fun, but in terms of what board games are capable of doing, it was disappointing in that regard, which I thought was an interesting take on it. I think you're on the right track. I think he basically had just said hey, it was a really cool game and it's really fun and it's exciting, but he kind of compared it to Like if you were trying to show somebody how cool board games were, this is not a good way to do that because it's basically four people with their own tasks doing very simple things on a timer. Like, but it's not. It doesn't show what makes board games great overall, like the getting the gears grinding and really thinking about mechanical things and planning your long-term strategies. It's like your role is simple. You do this. Like these are the research cards, and then these are the this is how much money you have to spend. So it's like a bunch of really simple things, like forced into a timer. But it's still fun. But it's not like a really deep kind of game. Which I thought that was interesting. I like the game, but I think he's kind of got a point.
I see the replayability actually going with switching up your roles more than kind of pressing for best time of like min-maxing.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit touchy, but mostly learning the new rules. So maybe he's right to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, how do you get your puppet to talk while you drink? That's awesome.
My puppet. This is my friend Isaac. Lance, you weren't here when I introduced Isaac, but Isaac's a good. He's like my best friend. He's been a big part of everything that we've done for our series and everything. He's been a huge.
So like your best friends, your mom's still sending those checks every month, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
People are gonna like it and people are gonna dislike it. But I mean, as Chris said, it's got a great theme. It's like one of my favorite. I played the old version on my old PlayStation. I think my PS1, if you will. So, yeah, the game is fun and it's a blast and it's right now it's really close. If it isn't my top game of 2014 right now, or 2015, sorry, it probably it's right up there. So, all right, well that's cool. A little mini reviews of XCOM, and I'm sure you guys are going to talk about that in your own little things that you do or whatever. Well, I wanted to. The thing I mentioned a couple things. We always never said we were going to have like really a theme with this thing. I mean, just kind of talk about whatever is on our mind or whatever. But one of the things that I discovered, I was like talking about old hobbies I used to have, and I started talking comic books with a few people, and I remember like before I got into the whole, before I was like had a child and married and whatever and had money, I remember all my like disposable income really went into comic books, and I spent a lot of money on them and read them. And now I've kind of disassociated myself with that hobby. I still kind of follow it, but I have no idea about storylines or anything. And I was wondering if anybody had any like old geek hobbies that they used to really focus on, but now because of like board games, whether they came into your life late or whatever, if they've given up on them or whatever, and whatever happened, and how do we, because you only have so much time, you only have so much resources. I mean, how do you decide, which is like the one that you're going to focus on? I guess that's kind of a weird, vague question. But I know, Chris, you got to get going. Have you always just been a board gamer, or did you leave any of your geek hobbies in the back and behind you or anything?
Yeah, I mean, sort of like you. I mean, I was a big comics geek for a long, long time. I mean, I mean, we all picked up comic books early in our lives, but I've really been a hardcore comic book nerd since about 1985. And even before that, I was reading some of the X-Men and went to the great Claremont run there, Claremont and Byrne. And
how good was that run? How good was that run on X-Men?
Probably, in my opinion, the best run of any comics ever. I mean, it was just. They did it right. Like you look at the comics today, and you have some great storylines, and then you go back and you look at the Claremont Byrne run, and they weren't always like every other page wasn't a splash page with Wolverine with his claws popped out, jumping, killing people. It was actually story. I mean, there was political intrigue. There were, they built up the whole Union Liberation Front. I mean, all these different things that happened. The Hellfire Club. I mean. So many great storylines that happened, including rounding out what Wolverine would eventually become, including Frank Miller's miniseries. And that was just a golden age. I mean, it's the Bronze Age or the modern age of comic, but the golden age as far as like modern comics enthusiasts, that was the pinnacle of storytelling for that age. And I haven't seen really a return to that since. I mean, we've had some great storylines. We've had some kind of mini-series of trade paperbacks that have been done, like Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb's The Long Halloween with Batman. You know,
Long Halloween and Dark Victory, which was the sequel to it.
Absolutely, both fantastic. And of course, we've had our graphic novels that shaped the modern comic landscapes, like Watchmen and V for Vendetta, things like that. But modern comics, other than some of the independents that have started to come out and some of the graphic novels have been doing, we haven't really seen mainstream comics return to that wholeheartedly. We've had some pockets here and there, but as far as like a run that long, like the Claremont Byrne run on X-Men, I don't think we'll ever see that again. And
was that in the mid-'80s?
Yeah.
Well, think about all the huge books that came out in the mid-'80s with the Frank Miller run with the Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen and the one you just mentioned. And DC fixed their whole universe thing with the
Crisis on Infinite Earths, yeah.
Yes, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, and all those books are super valuable now if you can find them.
Absolutely, and that was really. It was truly revolutionary for storytelling, for comics and sequential art. It was just an amazing time. Now we do have some great projects that are going on nowadays. We've got Why the Last Man. Robert Kirkman's work on The Walking Dead has been fantastic. Some of the things that have come out, even from Marvel and DC, where they take some chances and kind of play around a little bit with the universe, have been pretty good. But nothing compares back to really, honestly, the 80s were where it's at. We got into the 90s where a lot of the independent artists split off and formed Image and did some other things. And I don't know if that – it did a lot for the industry in showing that the big two, Marvel and DC, didn't rule the world. But honestly, back then in that time, there was such a huge bubble where people could sit down and have the backing of these two great behemoths. And what I think is cool, and I think I'll tie it in just a little bit, and I'll stop rambling and let somebody else talk. But what I think is cool is that they're taking a bit of the special magic that was Marvel, and still is Marvel a little bit, but the continuity portion of it, making sure the universe is all tied together. They're doing that with Marvel Studios now, which is why I think that the movies are really resonating so much, because they've gone back to the House of Ideas, what Stan Lee had planned, what that entire Marvel staff really had in mind of tying everything together and making sure everything made sense within a certain universe, and they've translated that into the Marvel Studios, and that's what is exciting about bringing Colin Spidey back into the Marvel Universe too. So now we can have him involved with the Avengers, and we can have almost everybody together, excluding mutants. But that's what's been really cool.
You got to think eventually Marvel's just going to have enough money or whatever that they're going to be able to just pony up the funds to bring the X-Men home and tie it all together. I mean, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
But, so I don't know if anybody else did this, and I'll let somebody else. If you read comics, and I apologize if people are in here and they aren't a big comic book nerd or whatever. But isn't it weird? And I think most people did this. And I could be wrong, but most people, you cut your teeth with Marvel Comics. It's like that's what got you into the whole superhero. You started reading Spider-Man or X-Men or whatever, but you didn't read DC. It just wasn't, and especially in the '80s. And then you kind of got clued into DC later, and then you kind of switched over to DC. And then because for me that was how it worked. I mean, it was I was a huge Marvel guy. I bought all Marvel comics all the time. And there were a couple of DC titles I was interested in, Batman, of course, and Green Lantern. But I didn't really read anything else. Oh, and Teen Titans too. I got into them. But then it was as my taste changed, it just seemed like DC Comics actually just started having better storylines, and mainly probably because Batman, they really made him iconic, and they really fleshed out his persona of the world's greatest detective or whatever. And Marvel, I don't know. It was it was weird. It was I'm not a big grim and gritty guy. I mean, comics went through that phase where everybody had to be, it had to be raining at every panel, and everybody had a frown on their face, and everybody had somebody that got killed or whatever, So there was always anguish and angst going on, but. They for lack of a better term, I think it was comic book reality. It wasn't a fantastic world anymore. Everything was kind of rooted in day-to-day life. and I think that appealed to a lot of people. I don't know. So maybe did everybody else go through the whole phase, or did you always read all of them all the time, or?
So I'm the opposite of you. I actually started with cut my teeth on DC. And maybe because I'm a little bit older than you, but I was really into the Batman, Superman. Oh, no, actually, that's a lie. It was Green Arrow, Green Lantern, and Flash that I cut my teeth on, and then I kind of discovered Marvel. But those were my first three loves.
Happy 72nd birthday, by the way, Marty.
Can I interject for just 1 second and touch on something that you just mentioned, Lance? What's cool is that Marvel had that grim and gritty sort of feel in the late 80s when they introduced the Punisher and they started doing a lot of the other things where it became like the real world. DC did that in their Elseworlds graphic novels, things like V for Vendetta and The Watchmen. But they didn't really introduce that into the DC universe. It was more DC universe has always been sort of this clean sort of place that didn't get a lot, but they followed that up a little bit in the 90s, following what Marvel was doing. But what's interesting now is that when we go back to the films, DC has mandated like no jokes. We can't have humor in our movies. We're grim and gritty now, and Marvel's all like, yeah, laugh it up, have people have a good time. It's still based sort of in reality, and so the characters feel real, but they have that amazing balance between the real world and kind of like winking at the audience. And DC has been playing catch up for so long that now their movies are like, nope, we got to go back to the 80s, and everybody's got to wear, frowns and be crying and boo-hooing about stuff, or we got to have weird, things going on in the movies. So it's a really different atmosphere in the modern times when it comes to the movies versus the comics.
I think they're going to totally screw up Batman versus Superman.
I do too. I agree.
I mean, Affleck looked Batman-y. I will give him that. The images they've given out and the Batmobile images they've given out, he looks suitably Bruce Wayne / Batman-y. But oh man, I don't
have a problem with Ben Affleck being Batman. I'm totally fine with that, and everything else seems to be fine. But when you come down to a Batman versus Superman thing, unless they go full on Frank Miller, and like get it political and gritty, just like The Dark Knight Returns, they're totally going to screw the entire thing up, and it's going to be a train wreck. Especially since they have Wonder Woman, and they're trying to do a pseudo Justice League movie, but they're not putting all the Justice League in it. That's just weird.
It feels like a weird cash grab, honestly. I mean, it feels like the splash of the name. I mean, you have to. I mean, somebody else interrupt me, but I mean, it's basically like what bothers me about it. I'm not saying anything that people aren't already saying. Marvel was smart, and they slowly built to the Avengers. They were willing to take their time and make quality movies that were going to make money, and then they went for the big splash. You could reboot everything. I mean, you could. Why can't you just come out with a press conference and say, you know what, those movies were good, we're proud of them, but we're starting everything over, and we're gonna have 2 Batman movies and have 2 Superman movies and make good Batman Superman movies.
But how many times do I have to watch the origin stories of all these guys? We know the story. Christmas.
That's true. Keith, but 45 minutes have shown. They have definitely shown in some movies where you like the one, like, admittedly not a great movie, the Ed Norton Hulk movie. They did the background, or they did the origin in like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and it was done, and everybody was like, okay, fine, now we can watch the movie, So I mean, Marvel Productions has made their mistakes, and they recognize they made their mistakes, and they realize that Hulk just can't carry a film probably. But put him in a group where you can let Hulk be Hulk, and then he's like the focal point of the movie, and everybody came out of the Avengers saying that was amazing. Hulk was perfect in that movie, which is one of the reasons why I love the Avengers so much. They finally got Hulk right. They got the whole aspect of that hero.
You could thank Joss Whedon for that, right, Chris?
No comment.
Yes, you can.
As long as you don't invoke the bad word, we'll be fine talking about Joss. So.
I'm not a Whedon fan either, but I mean, if he was the driving force between actually getting Hulk correct, then kudos to him. So.
I think that all of Marvel Studios really had a lot to do with it. I mean, Josh did a good job with it. The whole killing of Coulson thing. Spoiler alert: nobody's seen Avengers, but the whole killing of Coulson thing was just like I rolled my eyes and looked at my friends when I was watching it. I was like, this is. He can't be dead, because if Joss went back to the well again for this, I was just going to be just totally disappointed. But I think Kevin Feige has done an amazing job as far as like wrangling most of the Marvel universe and getting everybody. It's the same thing that the old bullpen did with the Marvel comics back in the day. You know, they had a couple of people really in charge, looking after continuity, trying to make sure that the scope of everything was the same. And they're doing that with Marvel Studios, and that's why it's working, because Marvel Comics did the same thing in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Well, mid-90s, before Joey Q took over. But anyway, that whole continuity, making sure everything was fitting together, that the House of Ideas was really churning, that's the same thing they're doing in Marvel Studios now, and that's why it's working. And DC doesn't have that. They just don't. They have so many disparate people working, and they're trying to play catch-up. And I'm sorry for all the DC fans out there right now, but DC has been playing catch-up with Marvel since the 60s, and it's always going to be the same way.
I will give DC credit TV shows, though. I think they're knocking it out of the park with Flash and Arrow.
Marty, I totally agree with you. I think that DC is ruling the airwaves right now for TV. I think Flash and Arrow are great shows, and they're finally letting those creative teams have a great time to kind of delve into the core of these characters, and also doing the crossover thing, which I think is really awesome. And that's what's exciting watching these shows, is seeing these characters interact and act like themselves as the way they would traditionally with the characters. Seeing Oliver, okay, Oliver's been a little bit of a whiny pants for a little bit of a while, but he has to see that sort of Batman for the TV right now, and he's doing that with Barry Allen's Flash. You know, Flash is all. I'm a huge Flash. I mean, I'm a Flash guy. I mean, if anybody hasn't heard that, I'm a
Jay Garrick Flash guy. I'm just telling you right now.
You're old school. Yeah, you're old school. But what's cool about that, though, is that Barry Allen has always had that kind of golden boy, pie in the sky, Americana kind of an atmosphere, and everything he reacts in, even his rogues have a code of conduct. And it's a very different atmosphere. And to delve into what Arrow's world is, which is very kind of grim and gritty, and dealing with the League of Assassins and Ra's al Ghul, things like that, to have them kind of mixed together, sort of like oil and water, but they've done a great job of capturing that. And I think that's why it's really working for TV.
I like it a lot, because I didn't read DC. I have no background on Flash or Green Arrow, and I watch those shows. I'm like, now I want to go learn what's going on with these characters. Who are these guys? Who are these bad guys we're seeing? What's the background there? And I think that's why they're doing a good job with the show, because it draws me to try to learn more about those characters.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll say this that they have actually managed in the comics to take Captain Cold, a guy who just his whole premise. If you go back to his beginnings of just the corniness of his character, and they have revolutionized him as one of the rogues for Barry Allen into like a really, really good villain. I mean, just like a very, like you said, he's got a code. He's got his own like set little mentality, and he's very calculating, and he won't purposely take somebody out or everything, but if you push him, you finally, like, people who miss it. I think he's always underestimated. They play him like everybody thinks he's a joke, but he really actually has a lot going on, and he's taken on a lot of people that considered him to be kind of a chump.
Well, not only that, but they made Captain Boomerang cool. And
I know, isn't that weird?
You can make Captain Boomerang cool, then you have succeeded, because he was a badass. It was amazing.
And and then DC actually made Catman cool. Remember him? Like, he was like a weird like third tier Batman villain, and then they reinvented him.
Yeah, I mean they've done a great job. I mean, the whole crew on both those shows have done a great job.
Yeah, and I guess also the most recent with Pied Piper, they did a great job with his character. The only thing that's kind of weird about him is I'm not sure which version of Pied Piper they're going to go with, because eventually Pied Piper and Barry, Flash become friends. But I don't know if that'll happen here.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they'll word that. I mean, they're already rolling some of the Wally West universe into Barry Allen with TV shows. So I imagine that Pied Piper will probably turn back around and end up friends with the Flash like he did in the comics. It just makes sense to do it that way. I'm looking forward to when the Trickster finally shows up, and that's going to be really cool. So,
Matt, are you just like a Marvel fanboy? You don't have anything to say about comics, or what?
Me, you asking?
Yeah, no, the other Matt. Actually, could you get up and leave, and could we have Isaac?
Isaac talking.
I was just listening. You guys are giving me a good history of Marvel stuff that I wasn't quite up to speed on.
Oh yeah, because you're just like a movie fanboy, right?
No, because he's only like 21 years old.
Yeah.
21? Dude, I'm awake.
I'm 23 and a half, dang it.
I like DC. The biggest DC thing that I followed was Watchmen. That was always one that I loved, and that was really the deepest I ever got into DC was just really loving the Watchmen stuff. And that's the one thing I will say that I thought they did well in terms of DC films. Some people disagree. I thought
you need to get up and leave. I'm sorry.
You didn't like that? You didn't like? I thought that it was pretty much shot for shot. I don't know. It was pretty damn close. I thought it was good. I don't know. I guess people disagree, but I thought it was pretty awesome to watch.
Well, admittedly, there's aspects of Watchmen, the comic book, that you just couldn't feasibly put in the comics. There's just too much. But I don't know. I mean, I not that I'm trying to be a comic book snob, but I usually say when somebody says, "Oh, I really like Alan Moore," and then I say, "Oh, what do you think is his best thing he's done?" And if I hear Swamp Thing, then I know I have a true comic book appreciation.
Best run of Alan Moore ever. Swamp Thing was amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. See, that's before my time. So I can't. I'm not discrediting that in any way. I happened to Watchmen kind of came up during my my teenage years, and I thought it was awesome. And then the movie came out, and I thought it was awesome. So that's as much as I really delved into DC. I mean, Batman, obviously, a little bit of Batman here and there.
I will give you the link to the collected graphic trade paperback for his Swamp Man
awesome.
Run, and it's some of the best stuff you'll ever read.
I'd love to check it out. That sounds cool.
The only other thing I think is that Frank Miller did a great job. Like they always tie those two together because the Dark Knight and Watchmen came out right around the same time. But sadly, Miller has just completely gone off the deep end, and I don't know what his deal is. But his body of work still speaks for him.
You don't like Sin City?
Well, Sin City is amazing, but I think Alan Moore's the same way too. I think they both started buying into their crap,
Yeah, they get a little too lost in their own kind of world and haven't kind of gone back and taken a retrospective of what's outside of their sphere, which is what they did in the 80s and 90s. And I think that was what made them great Central Park, is they were able to go in and have sort of political commentary or commentary on not only what's going on in the world, but in comics in general. And now they kind of just do their own thing, and so they're kind of lost in their own little bubble of things. Whereas like someone like, I think, Neil Gaiman has progressed to actually evolve his craft past where he was even with comics, like his novels and everything else he's been involved in. I think that Neil Gaiman has done nothing but simply go straight up and continue to engage with the world outside of his own sphere, and that's why he's really remained relevant.
Barry, you're talking too much. I need you to be quiet over there, okay?
You guys, real quick, I'm going to cut in. I got to take off. This has been all. As a matter of fact, I could sit here and talk about this all night, which I feel like I have. But I got to take off. I've got to report a state of game. So thanks for having me, and hopefully I'll be on the next Alaboom Hangout, and I hope you guys have a good discussion, all right?
See you, Chris.
All right, have a good night, man.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
Barry, you a comic book nerd?
No, not really. The only ones I've ever read was the Dark Knight, and then The Walking Dead. I read like 50 issues of that, I think it was. Growing up, I just didn't have really too much time for it. But now I'm getting into some of these shows you're talking about, like The Flash and Gotham and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that. And I am looking back into what the history of these shows are in the comic books. I recently been trying to do that since I have plenty of free time now.
Well, I'm sad. I'm sorry that you have free time, because I know, like, right now you're looking for work. But in a way, I kind of envy you in a weird way, because it's like, man, I would love to, like, be walking into that world of comic books and, like, the sheer library of stuff that you'd have access to read, and all the backstory. I mean, I don't know. It'd be crazy. I would. It's kind of like when you first get into board games, and it's just like, you pick up, like, those first 2 designer board games, and then you're just like, oh wow, look at these thousands of games that are amazing. I've got to get them all. I've got to play them all. So, no, that's cool. No, I mean, I sadly, I don't get to watch the TV shows that much. We, as a family, we ditched cable, just because it was just like, this is stupid. We can watch everything on Netflix or Amazon Instant or even Hulu. And so we ditched it because it just made more sense. And so I hardly, if ever, keep up with, like, normal TV. And I know that, like, Arrow and that stuff is on Netflix and what have you, but it's just like, man, I never have any time. I mean, people talk about they get to sit down and, like, binge watch a show. Oh yeah, I watched 6 hours of Breaking Bad yesterday. It's like, oh, dude, do you not have a wife? Do you not have kids? I mean, how do you string 6 hours together of free time? I just can't comprehend that. But I don't know. Maybe you make just a point to set that time aside. But I mean, I guess ultimately this kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier. If I have 6 hours, I'd much rather be playing a board game, I guess. So that's kind of like what takes precedent.
I understand.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I only sleep 3 to 4 hours a day, so.
That's not good. Actually, just that's not healthy.
I'm not really that. Look at me, Lance. Now, what you guys don't know is the reason I'm out of work is I got injured on the job. I hurt my back real bad, and so the pain just is constant. It keeps me up.
Where do you live, Barry? I forget.
Delaware.
Delaware. All right. I'm just trying to think. Do they legalize it yet out there? So you can deal with
No.
I think they did, actually. Yeah.
Not that I would suggest. I've never done drugs in my life, but hey, if it's your thing, it's your thing. Well, as I'm drinking a beer.
You have to say you're drinking a beer. That's a drug, dude.
You shut your mouth. I can quit anytime I want.
I'm sitting in this with, like, 2 empties next to me, so whatever.
Empty bowls?
No, beer bottles, for God's sake. Come on, man.
I remember. I've always kind of looked like this. I've had long hair and a big beard and everything like that. And I got my job at this professional place that I work, and I've worked there for quite a long time. And, like, the first 3 or 4 years. In the first 3 or 4 years that I worked there, I got approached several times by coworkers asking if I was holding and if I was selling. And I was just like, no, and no. I just like, they just assumed that I was some big hippie weed head. So.
Did you have a lot of selections in the random drug screenings?
Here's the funny thing about the company that I work for. It's multinational. It's huge. It's I work in Fargo, North Dakota, at one of their large service centers, and when I got hired, you had to go take a urine test, and so that was whatever. I don't care. I mean, I made sure not to eat, like, a poppy seed bagel that day, but went there, and then I had to hold the door open so the guy could watch you in the mirror as you're taking a leak, and you couldn't turn on the water or anything. He had all these, like, strict rules of how I had to do it. So then I whizzed and handed it over or whatever, and they did the test screening, and obviously it went through. And like a few years later, they just stopped doing it because for 2 reasons. One, it cost something like $120 a person, and they were doing it for every single person they hired. And 2, they were getting too many positive results, and they had to, like, decline people they wanted to hire. So they just stopped doing it, so they wouldn't have to not hire people for it. And I have never ever heard of anybody getting a random drug test at my job ever. It's just one of those things where North Dakota is a right-to-work state, so if they want to ditch you, they can ditch you. They can just say we no longer need you. There's the door. And you can go through arbitration and file workman's, for unemployment and stuff, and you go through that process. But they can just decide at any point that they don't need. There's no like contract or anything. You don't have a right to be at your desk working. You don't have that kind of a thing going on, which is one of the reasons why a lot of corporations have locations within North Dakota. It's one of those really nice perks or whatever.
Well, Lance, just to let you know that poppy seed thing's a myth.
No, actually, it isn't. I watched a thing about it. The guy, maybe there's something else, but they actually showed a guy that he was going to go in and get and pee in a cup or whatever, and they had him eat like 4 poppy seed muffins before he went and took the test, and then he went like an hour later or an hour and a half later, and he tested positive for opium. I mean, unless TV lied to me.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I guess like they say, it can affect it. So,
I used to work on the trains, fixing trains, up in Philly, and I'd get randoms because it's a safety issue, naturally.
Well, Barry, wait a minute. Did you work on the railroad then?
Yeah, I worked not.
Did you work all day long?
All the live long?
Yes, all day long, swinging my hammer. But they actually gave us pamphlets telling us how much of each drug we could have in our system. And then, like the poppy seed thing, they were saying you had to take like 500 milligrams of poppy seeds in it for it to be trace amounts on the test, But we also had the same issue that you were talking about, like hiring cleaners and all that. 90% of the people couldn't pass the drug test to get in.
That's just crazy. I did. My brother lives in Las Vegas. My older brother, and he everywhere he looks, because their random drug screenings are pretty common for the jobs, and everywhere he looks, there's ads posting where it's like, you give us 24 hours, we'll get your urine to pass. It was just, and it's like, and if you go there, you pay them something. It's like $500. And if you fail your drug test after you go through whatever process they do, I don't know if they just exchange, give you a complete change of blood or what, but after you come out, and if they it's something like they give you $750. They give you back your money and $250 more if you fail your drug test. So it must work, right? They just flush your system or something. I don't know. Attach a garden hose to your nose and turn it on. But no, did anybody else have any geeky hobbies? I mean, like, did you play D&D when you were younger and then you had to give it up, or?
Well, I gave up. Probably a lot of people did. When I got into board games, I started giving up video games. So growing up from a kid and up through the 90s and stuff, I played a lot of video games. And early in the 2000s, I was into the MMOs, some of the early ones like Star Wars Galaxies, and I got into a lot of Half-Life and playing first-person shooters. And
what did you play on Star Wars Galaxies? I just out of curiosity, what was your character?
Oh Lord, I can't remember.
So you're lying then?
No. Wait a minute. Did you pick a role in that?
Well,
I remember I was really good with a carbine. I remember that was my main weapon of choice. By the way, I still think tangent. I think Star Wars Galaxies has the best economic system in a game of any game ever, and nobody's ever copied it. I don't understand why.
I made a weapons builder or whatever, or like so and then I had like, because that was the thing, and I'm sorry for everybody who's bored of this already, but I think it was like you got to choose, wasn't it? You had to choose two.
You could take paths.
Yeah, you two skill paths that you could max out, and then there was one that you could get about halfway up.
Yep.
And so I remember I maxed out my weapons merchant so I could build weapons, and then I maxed out like rifles, and so like I could use sniper or like long distance rifle weapons.
I did combat dude, the combat medic. Combat medic was my maxed out.
Combat medics were amazing. You could do mind damage to people.
Yep. That's what I did.
the economics are amazing, and then so you make that, and so I remember, when I quit because my weapons skill was so high, and I had all these like special items and everything that increased my ability when I made weapons. I remember I had several million credits on my character when I finally just stopped playing, just more money than I'd ever have to spend ever, and I mean, that was a fun game. I mean, it was wonky. I mean, there was a lot of things that were weird, but the whole mining for the materials, like finding the different areas on the planet to go put your
Harvesters.
Your harvesters down, and then go to the harvesters and collect your stuff, and then you had to put the power in. Yeah, I mean, it was fun, and like build your own town. Like,
Yep.
I remember me and a bunch of guys, we actually build on our server on Moss Isley. We built a place we called Moss Fargo, and like we got people to come there. We gave them houses and stuff like that.
But it showed how an economy actually works in a game, because the stuff that you mined had different qualities. So there was some water that was better than other water, and the best items created the best weapons and whatnot. But the weapons degraded over time, so you'd have to buy another one eventually. It just taught how economics works, and that's what I loved about it.
No, it was a good game. Too bad that they totally dragged their feet as far as how to be a Jedi character, and then they were gonna, and then space travel when it finally did come out was horrible and it didn't work right, and then that kind of killed it. That ended the game.
Was this before they did the reboot or after?
You're talking about when they did, was it called Lance? SWE? What was the three-letter acronym when they totally screwed up the game? NGE?
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about. Yeah, and it was just and it just went to, S word.
It casualized it, I take it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because that was back when, and now we're totally on another subject, but that's fine, whatever, we can sub-reference. That was back when you played an MMO, and the MMO didn't hold your hand the entire time that you played it. I mean, it was like you got a book that taught you how to play the game, like an actual book. You didn't go through a tutorial in the game, that taught you how to play, and then you went through the process of and it was just like an open world. Yeah, go play, go do what you want. You want to build a city, you want to be a merchant, you want to be a guy that was working for the Empire or the Rebels, and you just went and did it. And now it's there wasn't quests or anything. You didn't go talk to a guy who told you, oh, I need you to go to this area, kill 10 Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, everything WoW is spoon-fed. I did EverQuest for quite a while, and you talk about hardcore back in the day. I mean, you die, your body's there, all your stuff's on it, you go into a plane raid, you can't get back to your body, you lose everything that you've ever done. So you have to find some friends to help you get that stuff back, and you lose your experience when you die and have to level back up. It was horrible, but it was awesome at the same time.
Hardcore, have you ever played Eve?
Yeah, I haven't played it, but that's hardcore.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, somebody can come and kill you. I mean, take you out of the game. Done. You're out. You lose everything. It's really the most. And they have stories of infiltration where people will join another corporation as a spy, and then for a year work their way up the ranks to where they have access to all the money and goods, and then rob them blind. It's brutal. Some of the stories they do in that game.
Yeah, no, and it's weird that now, I mean, MMOs are just kind of dying anyway. I mean, and it seems I mean, World of Warcraft is still hanging tough, but I mean, their heyday is gone. I mean, I eventually maybe I could see them trying to do a World of Warcraft 2, and it's Blizzard, so you got to think that they will. But man, I mean, part of me just thinks that the next big MMO is just going to be made for consoles. I mean, it'll just be. I mean, that's just because that you're gonna hit more gamers. I mean, not that PC gaming is bad. I still play games on my PC, but it's just I think that there's too many people that have Xboxes and PlayStations or whatever, and it's just that's where they're going to go with it. I mean, it's just the market is so much bigger out there.
And people don't want to pay a monthly sub.
Yeah, that's why I play Guild Wars 2, which doesn't have a monthly sub. That's the one I still play.
Well, I remember. I mean, the last one I played with any regularity was the Lord of the Rings Online, and that wasn't bad. It was basically World of Warcraft and Lord of the Rings, but it was still fun. I had a buddy who actually paid the money that was like $300 or whatever for lifetime subscription. Just like you'd never have to pay for a month or whatever. And then of course 2 years later when it went to free to play,
Yeah.
we all made fun of him for it. But I mean, he really dug it and had a lot of fun with it, and that's still going. I mean, it's just one of those free to play ones. They get you on the microtransactions or whatever. So.
I'm not so sure that Blizzard's going to jump into another MMO anytime soon because they dropped their one. I can't remember what the project was called. They had one Titan being built, canned it, and look what they're making all their big money on now. Hearthstone, getting ready to come out with the Dota equivalent and Heroes of something.
Heroes of the Storm.
And,
I don't know. I got a
Thank you.
beta invite and didn't download it.
And then their new shooter that they're coming, team-based shooter they're coming out, which is also free to play. So it's like they're going down this more casual road right now because they see that's where the money is with the whole microtransaction thing.
Yeah.
And Diablo 3 gained a big push again from the next gen consoles. A lot of people. I mean, I got Diablo 3 cheap and it was fun. It's just fun to sit down and play a game like that. When I got 45 minutes to kill, and okay, fine, I'm going to kill demons for a while. Just it's mindless, and I don't have to think about anything, and it lasts just as long as I want it to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a huge World of Warcraft player. I mean, before I met my wife, my life consisted of I worked a noon to 9 shift at my job, and I'd get off work at 9. I would go back to my apartment, and I would go over to my computer where my character was still logged in from when I was logged in earlier, because of the fact that that was when it was so popular that if you didn't log in, you'd have to wait in line to get logged into the servers. So I had set up a macro with my specialized gaming joystick thing to have my guy jump once every 3 seconds, once every seconds, once every 5 seconds, and just repeat that over. So it was random enough that the game wouldn't log me out, thinking that I was just there trying to make sure I didn't get logged out. And I go and I play I throw like a frozen pizza in the oven. I play World of Warcraft from 9:30 in the morning until like 3 a.m. I'd fall asleep, wake up at 11, go to work. And that was my life. I mean, and the thing was, I'm not ashamed of it. I had a lot of fun. I was part of like a big giant raiding group. We did all the big time content. We were one of the first horde guilds that were like in the entire World of Warcraft world that was actually doing the end game dungeons and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. But then I met a girl and I couldn't. I found I'd rather hang out with a pretty girl than sit in front of a computer screen all day. So
smart man, because a lot of men don't make that decision.
Well, I'm lucky. I mean, she would this is how patient my wife was. She would come over to my apartment. This is how dumb I was at the beginning. She would come over to my apartment, and I'd be sitting in my bedroom and I'd be playing the game. I'd have the headphones on and talking to guys. Okay, yeah, go get that guy. Okay, all right, everybody, group over here. Doing our thing. And she'd literally be like lying on my bed, bored, and she's just like, "When are you gonna get done playing? Just a second, honey. Just a second." Just like I think back to those, I was like, God, I was a moron. What was? how did I manage to keep her here? But
True love.
True love, yeah, or something. I don't know. But yeah, what were we even talking about before we started?
I say that was the geeky thing I did before I really got into board games, and I've really cut back on video games ever since.
Yep. Video games now. I mean, I can't play something that's huge. I played the shooter, the big shooter. Why can't I think of the name? Destiny.
Oh.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, but I played that until I got to like level. I mean, I maxed out my level, then started gear grinding, and then I got to like level 25 or 26 gear grinding with my guy, and I was like, oh my god, I'm playing WoW again, and I stopped.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like the video games that now story-based, like The Last of Us. I'm playing Shadows over Mordor. I'm finishing up the Zelda game on my 3DS. So I like those style of games where I get engulfed in a story. So that's kind of my thing now.
Yep.
Shadows is a great game. That is an excellent game.
I've played in 10 years.
What'd you say?
Was that? Yeah, what'd you say?
I'm so glad you said Last of Us. I played video games my whole life before getting into board gaming. Last of Us is one of the best games I've played in 10, 15 years. Seriously.
Last of Us makes you actually care about the characters.
I didn't give a damn about a story in most games I played because they were all so corny or stupid. That game, I was invested in the game and I cared about everything I did. It was awesome. Just
if you want to, the people have posted in many places that posted YouTube things of just taking all the movie and just put them together, and you can watch the entire, like the cutscenes, and it tells the story. And it's just and if you haven't played the game, don't ruin it for yourself and go watch that. Just play the game. I mean, the ending of that is so. I mean, that can be a movie, and it should be a movie.
It's better than most movies. That's the thing that was so good about it. Is most games, like, they do something cheesy, like they put some dumb, pointless romance in it, or throw like a sex scene in it for no reason. That game was perfect because the story was engaging. It was heart-wrenching. Like, your character had like good conflicts. Like, your character's like a borderline villain. It's so good. It's so good. I won't spoil anything. It's just a fantastic story.
Yeah, and I'm only like I'm still at the beginning, but just the first part of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And those
if
who
you're
played,
a dad.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say anything else.
God.
But I was like, oh my gosh, I have never been pulled so fast into a story of a game within 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? Go play the Walking Dead series actually for the PlayStation 3. The storyline games, and play the first one. You're playing a character who, standard thing. You open up the game and you're in the back seat of a cop car. And the cop's talking to you about whatever, and you're sitting there, you're driving, and the cop's like, he's like, he's driving you to the prison, state penitentiary, and you get through the thing is like you were found guilty of murder, and even though you say it was like self-defense or something like that, and in the background you hear the radio, and the radio of course is going on. It's like rumors of outbreaks of virus, in the background you can't really tell, and the guy's sitting there and he's talking, and you kind of get it, and then all of a sudden like the cop car, there's a zombie but he thinks it's a person that's walking across the highway, and he brakes and the car flips. And you're trying to get out of your handcuffs at the very beginning while this zombie is trying to crawl itself towards you to eat you or whatever. But then as the game progresses, he kind of makes it, you as the character, you make your way back into this town looking for help, and you run into this little girl who's in a treehouse hiding from the zombies. And she's waiting for her parents to come back and get her. She had a nanny that was watching her, and you actually have to kill the nanny zombie, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then you basically start watching this little girl, and you start taking care of her. And as the game progresses, you start if you're a dad, you start actually living that guy's life, and just and his whole thing is taking care of this little girl and making sure that she's safe and teaching her how to shoot a gun and all this stuff. It's well worth the play. And then one of the cool things is that as the game progresses, you'll have certain situations where you have to decide who to save. It's like you get two of the people in your group are going to get killed, and you have to pick which one to save. And depending on who you save, will determine the storyline of the game going forward. And do you forgive somebody who accidentally kills this one person? Or what do you do with this thing? And there's really good choices. And when you finish it, it actually shows if you're hooked up to the internet, it actually shows what the percentage of what people picked. Who did they save? Did you choose to go this way? Did you choose to do that? You can actually see it how your choices matched up with everybody else that's played the game. So, if you haven't played The Walking Dead, if you have a Redbox, or if you can have a place where you can rent it, because you'll play it out in about 3 days. It isn't too long, but I would definitely recommend.
Is it the Telltale stuff?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's excellent. But yeah, but I was Matt, Last of Us, and those of you who've played through it, it's promise me I promise. Like the best last line at the end. Just
No spoilers.
no. That tells you absolutely
No
nothing.
spoilers. No spoilers.
Okay.
That is one of the best ending of any game I've ever played.
Now that's one of the best story-driven games I've played
Terrific.
ever. It's one that I sat down and I just want to play it every night until I crank through it, and then when it's over, I'm like, well, crap. But I never want to play it again
You
either.
just want to keep going.
How long does it take to finish the story?
What do you say? How long's the story?
How long does it take to play the game?
My first playthrough was about 18 hours, 18 and
Okay.
a half. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah,
I remember-
once you know it, you can get through it in about 12.
Yeah, I've been going through it again. I got I bought the game for full $60 for PS3, and then I rebought it again for PS4, and I didn't give a damn because I wanted to just play it again, and I'm happy to pay him again for it. I wanted the new, the PS4 version is unbelievable. It looks so fantastic.
Oh, and how about the pre-story that you get to play through?
The DLC, I actually haven't done that yet. I want to beat the game on professional, and then I'm gonna do the DLC.
Are you? What is wrong with you? You gotta watch the pre-story. The pre-story of the two girls is amazing.
I'm familiar with the story. I just I want to beat it on professional first. That's my goal. I want to beat it the PS4 version on like max difficulty, and it's very difficult. So
It explains why that girl is the way she is.
yeah.
It just gives you so much background.
Ugh.
And all these guys who are like listening to us are like, what the hell are they talking about? Board games already?
Man, I'm telling you, that first 10 minutes of that game, my wife was 8 months pregnant when I was watching it, and I had a tough time with it. And playing through it again after we had a child, and it's even harder. It's rough, man. It's
like the first 10 minutes of Up, man. It doesn't play fair.
It kicks your ass like right off the start. It throws you right into it, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna see this through. Like you can't not finish the game. That's why it's a great game.
It's funny. So I played through it and saw it. I sat my wife down. I said, "You've got to watch this," and played through the intro again, and she was just blown away.
Everybody's seen the movie Up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I went to that movie with my wife and my daughter, and it's like, and there was a lot of dads and there were a lot of husbands, and there were like none of them had a dry eye. It was just like, and there might have been one that didn't have a soul that was sitting there and watching it, but I mean, it was stuff like that. It just doesn't. Pixar, they don't play fair. They go right in and they rip it right out of you. There's no way. Big heave cry. Okay, well, since we probably have one or two people that play board games that they're going to watch us or are watching right now, has anybody played anything new recently that besides XCOM that they've enjoyed or what have you? Barry, you got anything for me? Played anything new? Just new to you. Doesn't have to be a new game. Just new to you.
Yeah, well, last night I went to Beer Mongers. We played Aquasphere there. That was the first time I played that. It's an interesting game. I like to play that again.
What do you mean by interesting? Interesting good, interesting bad?
It's a felt, you know, it points out thing. That it took me a little bit getting used to that, but the theme's interesting to me, you know, with the octopus running around and all that. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting one. And then Chris and I, a couple other guys played Northwest Fleet. It's a lighter game, but it was a fun game, you know, and it's real random. You know, you got these like 3D ships they built out of cardboard and placing cannons and crew members on it and stuff like that. That was a pretty interesting one. And then X-Files, which is actually the video for this week.
Tell me, what did you think of that? I saw it and they sent me a copy and I haven't sat down to play it. I showed it to my buddy Craig, who was a big X-Files fan. He's like, well, that was about 10 years too late, he said. Yeah.
Yeah, I said the same thing. Like, I don't know if they're rebooting it or, you know, but I think IDW does a comic book on it, and they used the artwork from that in the game on the cards. It was extremely light, and so light that I thought it would be a good gateway game for like that one versus many thing. And then we took it to people who are non-gamers, and they found it a little too confusing. But I think they missed the mark on the theme. I think they could have done something better with that theme, with that IP. You know,
wasn't that done by Kevin Wilson? I mean, isn't that his design or something? Or
yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's what surprised me. I understand they need to be accessible to a mass crowd and all that, so they lightened it up a little bit. But Jen just said it was flat out boring and it just overstayed its welcome. It's about an hour and a half long, an hour and three-quarter, and I'm still on the fence on how I feel about it. No.
My understanding is that they are actually planning on bringing back the show.
Is it? No.
That and they actually are getting Duchovny and who's her face, Gillian Anderson, back to be on the show as well. I mean, which I thought, why wouldn't they reboot it, and just start with 2 new people or whatever? But I guess they're gonna redo it, and I don't know, maybe there's enough, I don't know, new stuff that's happened in the last 10 years or whatever that they can build some good stuff. I mean, I don't know. I think the market for I'm pretty sure if they do come back with the show, there'll be the people that grew up watching the show, which I did and I loved it.
Yeah.
But I think what'll happen is that, it's just like I think we move past the monster of the week. I mean, there isn't like Supernatural is kind of that way anyway. So I mean, it's just and so people have been watching that. I don't know. Maybe it'll be great. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they go with it. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anybody else? Keith?
I played old stuff this weekend.
What'd you play? I love hearing about people breaking old games. I broke out. I'm not to overtalk you, but like I had people over and I was like, and they were like, my gear actually said, what new game are we gonna play today? And I was like, you know what? Let's just play Battlestar Galactica. And then we got it out, and we hadn't played it in about 6 months, and we had a blast. So.
I dove into some of the dungeon games. I drug out Wrath of a Shardalon and lost. I drug out Dungeon Quest 3rd Edition from Fantasy Flight and lost. I drug out Flashpoint Fire Rescue, and the house collapsed on top of us and lost. So basically, I'm a loser.
But see, those are all co-op games. I mean, did you have fun? Did the co-op game tell you a story, and you had like an enjoyable little? Yeah.
I was there in the afternoon by myself, and I'm like, I don't feel like playing any video games. I want to do something. No, I'm cranking out some old stuff I can play solo. That's a co-op type game. So.
I guess that's where I'm weird. It's like I'll play a game that's made for solo. Like I mean, I have B-17 Flying Fortress, and like I've replayed that probably 25 times, and because that's a solo game built to be played solo. But I have problems like playing a co-op game solo. I mean, it's weird. It's like I want the people around me. I want that interaction. I want that conversation of what's going on.
I would prefer that, but when there's nobody around, sometimes you got to play with yourself.
Nice.
Keeping it classy.
Martin, you been playing anything?
No, I mean, I spent most of my time getting the crap beat out of me by aliens. That's about all that we did.
Do you have a win yet with XCOM?
I do not. 0-5, man.
We finally we won. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but I think we're like 3-12, I think.
Oh,
but go ahead. Sorry.
That's good. No, that's right. So you brought up Keith brought out the Dungeons and Dragons Wraths of was it Ashtalon? Shardalon. My bad. Yeah. I'm sorry. So does anybody know if the new game that's coming out that WizKids is making that's kind of revamping that series, is it going to play the same way? Has anybody heard anything about the rules?
I haven't heard anything about the rules.
I was seriously excited about it. It was Temple of Elemental Evil, which is like one of the classic old second edition D&D adventures. It's just, well, actually maybe first edition. Now that I'm thinking about it, but it was like a classic old adventure. It's had a lot of like uses in computer games and stuff like that. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, Temple of Elemental Evil. Are you serious? And then I saw it was going to be that part of that weird group, and which those games kind of, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan. So. So I'm kind of disappointed that it's gonna follow that. If WizKids is gonna mess it, like play with it and make it something new or whatever. But let's be completely fair here. WizKids haven't had a really good board game in a while. And so my trust in them to come out with like a board game like new is really low. And
Mage Knight was good from WizKids.
Well, but that was a Vlada game, and I don't think WizKids really. I don't think WizKids really did a lot of development. I think that was just a Vlada game that he did. But that's like a 3-year-old game, though.
Yeah, it is.
Name another game.
Have they done any other board games? What other board games have they done?
Well, they did that really awful Batman game.
The Rings one, yeah.
And then they had that Lord of the Rings dice builder, which was
yeah.
And then they did Quarriors and.
I mean, Quarriors I liked for the really. I mean, a lot of people bashed on Quarriors for like there being no choices, but if you actually played tournament rules, it actually was pretty good. I mean, you actually opened up your buying potential, and then like when you used your really powerful things to attack, you had to put them away. You know, so you actually had some choices there. It was a much better game when you used tournament rules. But I mean, obviously they made a big splash with the Marvel Dice, but I mean, you know, which is a fun game, but they shot themselves in the foot because, oh, here's this game that everybody wants. Yeah, we don't have anymore. Oh, when will you have some? Well, like 6 to 8 months from now.
You can get it now.
Well, now you can, but nobody wants it now.
Yeah.
And what do they do? They immediately glut the market with every single possible intellectual property they possibly can have, and it's just like, well, you know, meh, who cares? You know, just.
And now that's
exactly what I was going to say. When it finally came out, it's like, okay, here's the new Marvel. Oh, guess what? Here's a Yu-Gi-Oh. Oh, guess what? Here's a DC. Oh, guess what? Here's D&D. So.
You know, and I was mildly interested in the D&D one for a little bit, and then I was just like, and then I found out that like you couldn't really mix and match really well. I mean, you had to like kind of play with it, and it was just like, because I thought the idea of like having Spider-Man fight a like a Tarrasque or something, you know, I was like, that'd be cool, you know, but then it was like, oh no, you know, that just doesn't work like that. So I was just like, oh, well, meh. Yeah. So I have I'm looking at it right now. I have my complete like first edition X-Men versus Avengers or whatever. I have every single card. I have tons of dice, and so I have all the Marvel Dice Masters I'll ever need when I want to play it. You know, so and that's all I'll ever need. So I'm not gonna buy into trying to track down every single card anymore.
I may buy the DC starter just because I'm a DC fan, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's the only thing but I know if I do, then I'll have to have the entire set. So I'm gonna stop myself from doing it. You know, as much as I want to have like a team of Batman and what have you fighting, you know, other guys as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, WizKids, it just seems like they just can't. And it's not just me. I've talked to like store owners and stuff, and they just talk about how WizKids just can't seem to figure out how to get out of their own way, and actually, like, they're a successful company. I mean, they have stuff that people are interested in, and it sells well, but it just like they could be like a really successful company if they could just get, you know, stop running into walls and you know, making poor decisions. But I don't run a company, so maybe there's a reason to the madness. So.
I guess HeroClix is still their bread and butter.
Well, look at that line of people every year at Gen Con for like the 12 or 15 or whatever 20 exclusive figures that they release there, that everybody lines up to get. And you know, and like, you know, half of them to play and half of them to put on eBay, you know, as soon as they get home.
The dude tried to knock me down at Gen Con this year, and I'm not little to get to his Dice Masters.
people get excited. I mean, and I remember playing HeroClix when it first came out, and I had a lot of fun with it. I played the old DC one, and I had a lot of fun with it. But I was just like, God, I can't keep up with this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, people like the Attack Wings games, so.
You know, but I mean, people aren't going all googly over the Star Trek one. You know, like they did for.
It did well, but people like the D&D one, it seems.
You know, and nobody around my area. Nobody I know is into the the Dragon Attack Wing. I know it's popular, but I mean, where I am, it's all X-Wing. Nobody plays anything but X-Wing. And I mean, and there is an X-Wing tournament every week at the local game store.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nutballs over that. I mean, I keep looking out my window because I got a guy coming over to my house because I did an auction, and he bought all my X-Wing stuff that was just sitting there collecting dust because I was just like, I'm not going to buy any more ships. So I'm just waiting for him to show up here. So at some point, I'm gonna vanish up the stairs. You'll hear my dogs go crazy. So I apologize for that. But what about you, Matthew? Besides your XCOM bashing, what else you been doing?
Omega Virus. We played that a couple times this week.
There you go. Do you have it with you? Can you play it? Can we play it in your microphone?
Hang on. Yeah, I got it. It's like 2 feet away. Hang on. See, it's like right. It's right. Oh, where is it? Right there. See, it's all set up next to Battle Lore. I'll get it for you.
What's the guy in the GIMP mask back there doing?
What? Talking about this guy?
I don't know. What happened to your buddy? Did he have to go back in his hole in the basement, or what?
He had to go home. He
Oh.
lives like half an hour from here. Look at this thing. Good as new.
Enter skill.
You're jealous.
Oh. I played that so much when I was younger.
Enter
He talks.
secret code.
He talks trash all game long.
Yep.
So it's actually surprisingly good. It holds up fairly well for a early '90s like mass market game. It's actually
and it's actually pretty challenging.
yeah,
honestly.
yeah, definitely. It's not very challenging
Enter
solo.
secret code.
Sorry, that's gonna do that for a minute. I'm gonna. You can't really
Smash it with a hammer.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's actually surprisingly good for a. I mean, in the '90s when I played that when I was a kid, I didn't know what. I don't think we ever played with the right rules. But now that I actually sat down and read the rules and played through, it's pretty fun. It's not very hard in solo still because you can just keep taking turns indefinitely. But
Enter secret
having other people play in that like little semi-cooperative aspect where you can attack other people and try to take their gear and stuff, it's definitely like it's a risk reward thing. It's cool. Like you're all working together to try to like beat the thing, but you don't want to screw your teammates over too badly because you don't want them to. You don't want to waste too much time, so it's cool. Surprisingly good game. Aside from that, Battle Lore, and I actually just finally picked up a copy of Red 7, which I had heard about from BGG Con, and it was pretty fun. Just kind of been goofing around playing that with my wife the last couple of days.
I got that, and it's enjoyable, but man, it seems like everybody's got a variant for Red 7 about how you should play it or how it should change, and it's just like, well, you know what? I mean, I don't know. That always bugs me when a game comes out and like a month later, it's like, oh, try this variant of the rules, it makes it better. It's like, whatever.
Right. I'm not much for the variants. It's kind of like, well, somebody probably play tested it for X amount of days and whatever. They probably have a better idea. Still, sorry.
No, he's actually more interesting to talk to than you, so that's fine.
Oh,
Talking trash back there. Okay, he's off now. Anyway. What was the other one I played? The Machikoro expansion, actually. My wife is. We've been
I
enjoying
played that last night.
It's fun, man. It completely changes the game, but it's. I think it's good. I think it's
Make it better.
Yes, all much better. It goes from a meh game to me to a game I'll play now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with it.
I already gave my base away.
I thought the base game was fun. It was fine. It was like a light game, but I think like replayability speaking, like that expansion is pretty much. I mean, it makes the game. It makes the game.
Yeah,
Game great.
that's one of those weird things where the expansion like revitalizes it and actually makes the game worth playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, lots of games are like that. It's weird. It's like people say, "Oh, let's play this." Do you have the expansion? No. Nah, it's not that. Like Pillars of the Earth is one that comes to mind. Like they say, just the expansion that you have to have it if you're going to play it.
Scoundrels of Skullport.
Well, no, because that game Hours of Water Sleep is one of the worst games of all time.
I like the game with the expansion.
Oh,
Don't get Lance going on Waterdeep.
oh.
That does make it fun, though. I agree with you, Marty, 100%. That makes the game just the aspect of the negative victory points, or what do they call them? The corruption. Yeah, that alone makes the game. It goes from a good to a great game, I think. The risk reward thing is awesome.
I'm sorry.
I can hear him screaming in his head.
It's not a bad game. It's fun. I mean, once you have
There's
those
nothing good about it. There's no interesting choices throughout the entire game.
Well, I'm
sorry.
You play with the scope port thing. The scope port thing actually adds those interesting choices.
Okay, I get it. So they came up with a crap game, and then held the good stuff back until later, and then but now it's good.
That's the whole topic of the conversation, right? How expansions can make other games better.
That saved the game for me, for sure. I mean, it was a very, very light game, and I personally would have rather played other ones, like better worker placement games. But
all of them?
Yeah, sure. It wasn't a great game, but the scope port thing actually added exactly what you're saying. I mean, those interesting decisions, like, do I get the 3 or 4 resource cubes, but I have to take 2 negative victory points if I do that, or 2 corruption, which could end up being 6 victory points or 9 negative points, or that actually put it over the top for us to make it interesting. You have to actually think about, oh wow, look at this, I can finish my quest, but is it worth it because I'm going to get negative 10 points at the end of the game right now? It kind of gives you some more choices, but I'll agree with you that it wasn't a lot going on before that.
Well, it was good for me because it was really the first Euro type game I played. And I thought it was great at the time until I played other things that were better.
Sorry, Keith. I'm so sorry.
But now I don't want to play it. I want to play other games. So it opened a window to me that I didn't see because I just wanted to play dungeon crawls before that and Arkham Horror and stuff like that. So it opened my world and my wallet.
That's good.
No.
I'm thinking of other games that were that kind of require the expansion. I'm trying to think of what some other good ones that kind of need the expansion to be whole.
It's one of those things where I don't want to be not saying anything because gosh, nature abhors a vacuum. But I'm just trying to think of a few here. I mean, there's some games that don't need expansions. There's tons of games that just don't need them, but they just come out with them.
Right.
Don't need them.
Well, and you know it was stuff he just left on the floor, and to streamline the game. I mean, you can't tell me that the expansion to Mage Knight was new stuff, and that was just stuff they didn't put in just for whatever reason. Same deal with Eclipse. And it was just like, oh, that was on the cutting room floor. Pick it up, refine it, throw it in a box, and make some money.
Yeah. You know what? I think, Lance, you make a good point there. I would say that Eclipse is one of my favorites. It's a good one, but I think you're right about the expansion. That most if you were to ask me, just not now I think about it, if you were to ask me, hey, should I get Eclipse? I'd say, yeah, get it, but make sure you get the expansion because these 3 or 4 modules make the game go from great to amazing. I think that expansion made the game awesome because it kind of balanced out the missiles and it added a bunch of new technologies, added the rare technologies, gave you a bunch of different ways to play it. I don't know. I agree with you, though. I think that's all stuff they had in. They were like, hey, let's cut this out for a modular expansion down the road.
It's weird because now if I'm going to play, I'm sorry, but if I'm going to play a space game, I'll just play Proximus Centauri. It's just because it's such a more streamlined game.
You need to try that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and plus I can blow up people's planets, which is nice.
I was going to say, mention Manchikoro about the thing about that expansion is how, as opposed to just, some expansions just adds a few maybe elements here, like Bruges. It adds a 5th person and does some stuff with the canals, but the harbor for Manchikoro totally changes how the market works. Totally changes that game to a different game for me.
Totally.
I mean, your whole point about the replayability is 100% spawn on. After a couple of plays, I don't need to play the base game anymore. But because of how the market works now for the Harbor expansion, I'll play that game a lot now.
Yeah. I mean, Manchikoro from the beginning was a very tactical game because, I mean, the game never changes. Of course, you can say, oh, I have a strategy of Manchikoro. What is it? Oh, get the most money. Well, whatever. But that game was always tactical. Basically, whatever you roll, you buy the best choice based on your die roll. Now the game actually has... It's still tactical, but it has choices. You have 10 choices every turn instead of 1, basically.
Yeah.
You have a ton of choices.
And not only that, just because of how the market is replenished, where if you keep drawing the same card over and over, then you may have 6 of one card but only 1 of another, and then you got a decision, and then there's a whole supply-demand element to the game that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Tim Baker in the chat room actually said mentioned that Castle Panic has an expansion coming out, but actually that made me think of Castle Panic was kind of an average game, but then I got rid of it, and then I played it with the Wizard's Tower expansion, which actually made it fun, and so I ended up going back out and buying it again, just because and then actually made it. And that's like one of my games that I play with my daughter all the time. We got a lot of fun with it. So that's another one out there, another game that I don't know. You touched on expansions and like it changes the market or whatever. That kind of goes against what well, let's put it this way. If the expansion fixes the base game in some way, then great, fine, whatever. But then I'm just annoyed because why didn't you fix it to begin with when the game came out? But that's neither here nor there. What I don't like is like I don't like it when I have a game that I enjoy and then an expansion comes out for it and then it completely changes how the game is played. It's like, oh, you know how you learned how to play that game? Well, now we're going to change up the roles and we're going to change up the round structure, and this is going to be a brand new way to play the game. And it's like, I don't want that. I just want more stuff. Give me more cards. You know,
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it just, which is why I've always, I've liked the small box expansions for Arkham Horror, because that's all they were. They were like more cards and more stuff that could do and keep it fresh. And then the big box ones, you'd add another board, and then you'd have another thing you had to like monitor and take care of, and it's just like, and that would always bother me. It was just like, I don't want to do that. I just want keep the game fresh.
I didn't want the boards. I just wanted the guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's just it. Give me a bunch of new investigators. Give me a bunch of new, like monsters that we run into and things like that. I mean, new stuff. But I don't need a board.
I don't need to go take a train, whatever.
Yeah, because it's weird because Eldritch Horror, the Forsaken Lore expansion was great. It added added a bunch of stuff to it. But then the Mountains of Madness, it's cool, but it's just like, I like the small box one more. So I was thankful that I got more cards out of it and stuff, though.
Any of you guys play Elder Sign? I think that's another game that I would say the expansion, the Unforeseen Forces, like that sort of not fixed the main game, but like really made the main game great. Was like Elder Sign is a dice game that the first expansion added that extra, I forget what it was. It's been a little bit since I played it, but it really made the base game great. And then I just bought the new expansion, now that I forget the name, Streets of Arkham, I think it is, or Gates of Arkham.
Yes.
And I went through that. I was excited. I'm like, oh, this is great. And shame on me, I should have read up on it more, but the majority of the expansion is a whole new game mode, like playing it like an adventure game instead of playing it the way it was before. So I was kind of bummed because I'm like, wow, 78 new adventure cards. It's going to be awesome. We shuffle them in. And they're all special cards that aren't supposed to be shuffled in. If you play the Gates of Arkham mode, you don't play with the base adventure deck. You only play with the new cards from the expansion. Mm-hmm. But you do mix in all the new item cards. But I think it's 1 to 2 of each of the new item cards. 1 to 2 of basically all the new cards for the existing content. You get like 1 to 2 of them can only be played with the new expansion, with the new mode, and all of the adventure cards can only be played in the new mode. So it's like a lot of the content is really only for the new Gates of Arkham mode. So I was a little disappointed that I couldn't just shuffle everything together and kind of play. That's my fault for buying the game before reading about it. But I mean, there are some new cards I get. There's probably like 4 new item cards per set, but there's a fair amount of new content, and it's like exclusive to the new game mode. So who knows? That might be a better mode, but it still leaves me with like a crap ton of cards, like what, 110 or 120 cards of adventure cards that now have nothing to do with the game. Like, if I play with that mode, they're out, which is weird.
Can you give us a synopsis of what the adventure mode is?
I didn't read up on it a lot. I was watching my kid today when I was looking through rules, but it's a kind of a new thing where you lay out, instead of using the museum for the different locations, you lay out a certain number of the cards face up for like the different areas you're going to adventure to, and then there's a certain number of them that go face down, and on the back of them they have kind of similar to the board game, they have different streets where they're located, or different areas of Arkham where they're located, and different colors to associate the difficulty of them. and I'm assuming you can visit those and investigate them in that same way. But I don't want to explain too much about it because I don't know it very well. But the biggest thing I took away from kind of skimming the rules was that all of those adventure cards, the 78 new adventure cards, are specific to Streets of Arkham. Basically, take whatever adventure cards there are from the base game, put them aside, and play with these adventure cards instead. But everything else does get shuffled in. All your item cards, your whatever, your skills and all that stuff that gets added, allies and all that. That's all part of the Streets of Arkham. But it seems like it's taking a big chunk of the exploring the museum thing like it was before, and that stuff all goes away, and now it's kind of a whole new mode. I could get more details for you, but I don't have the rules on me.
Yeah. For next week.
Yes, I will get that for you.
Yeah, I should have it by then to check it out too.
I mean, honestly, it looks cool. It's just a little bit of a disappointment.
Tim in the chat's asking if anyone's played the expansion for Firefly.
I have not, but I've heard good things from people that do play it. But that's neither here nor there, I guess, if you want my opinion. Firefly was a game that got play like right away, but then I don't know. It was like after a couple of plays, it just kind of died off for me. So that's just my opinion. Has anybody played an expansion after they got it? They said, "Screw this! I'm never going to play with this expansion again."
That's a good question.
Because I will say this. The Battlestar Galactica expansions, the first one, which added the Pegasus board and a bunch of new players and added a few tweaks to the gameplay, we use a little bit of that. We use the Pegasus board and we use the new characters, but we don't use the Caprica board because when you land on Caprica, it just adds 45 minutes to the game that doesn't need to be there. And it just takes forever. And then the expansion after that, which added the weird board.
Ionian Fleet one you talking about?
Yeah, it added that weird board. You had the CAG pilot, and then it added the weird board that had
the Cylon Fleet board.
The Cylon Fleet board. That was garbage.
Really? Oh, man, I don't play without that now. That's pivotal for us. That's funny.
Oh yeah, we just strip it down. We play with we add Pegasus and we add and then we add the main board and we just have all the characters and then but everything else has been put in a box and put away. We don't even use it.
I feel you with that. Battlestar has a lot of stuff and the expansions are just a mass of stuff. So I mean, you kind of play with what works for your group. And
well, the weird expansion where you had all the basically the NPCs that were sitting around in different spots, and you could
that board is still unpunched for me. I didn't even punch that. I had no idea.
It's just who thought this would be a good idea? It was like the Talisman Dragon expansion. Who thought it would be a good idea to have multiple spots on the board every turn that you had to monitor and roll a die on and see what happened? It was just we played with that once and we threw it out. We were just yeah, we're never playing with this again. So
I totally hear you.
It's just at that point, it's I respect Fantasy Flight for a lot of things. I mean, they do come up with very good product, but man, there are sometimes when you look at the box of cardboard that they put out and you're like, yeah, this was a money grab, pure and simple.
Yeah, there's definitely not some great stuff in there. If anybody ever wants to talk Battlestar Galactica, that's my favorite game probably of all time, and I could sit there and talk about the various modules and expansions all day long. So I won't go deep into it now, but that's a huge favorite of mine. I could speak to that one for quite a bit. Do you have the latest one? Do you have Daybreak?
No, I didn't bother.
Oh, you gotta have everything. Come on.
No, I didn't bother. It is. I'll say this. It is, it's one of my favorite games of all time too, and it's probably the game I played more than anything. Because when that came out, I actually owned 2 copies because we had so many people over at my house, and we'd have 12 people over, and everybody wanted to play Battlestar. So I actually had to. I went out and got another copy, and so we can have 2 games of it going during game nights, and but the thing about it is that it has its issues. I mean, it has its problems. Mm-hmm. After you've played it enough, you kind of lose the theme a bit. But my thoughts on it are that this is very, very. It sounds like I'm going to be negative, but I'm not going to be negative at all. It is probably one of the most, I'm not going to say innovative because trader mechanic was there before, but it people don't give it its due. It was one of the most influential game designs that came out, and the fact that it was a licensed property and it went over as well as it did for, in my opinion, an average at best TV show, because I hadn't watched the TV show at all. And then after I played the game, I went back and I watched it on Netflix, and I was like, this is kind of, well, it's fine, I guess. But
disagree, it's awesome. Yeah, okay, continue.
Yeah, whatever. It's watch that last season again.
Yeah, it wasn't the best ending. Great show overall.
Yeah, it wasn't the best ending. That last season, it was like the pilot was drunk with the blindfold. They were just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping it would stick. But anyway, so no, I mean, it was, the game design itself was one of the most influential. Look how many games have trader mechanics and negotiation after that game came out. Yeah. It was like, and it was one of the most influential, and it's probably one of the best games to come out in the last 5 years. I mean, honestly, I mean, it's just like, that's fine if you didn't like it or whatever, because a lot of people don't like the feeling of tension, honestly. But a game that you actually get emotionally involved in, because of the fact that, like, you just, the arguments and the lies and the subterfuge. I mean, the game beyond the game in Battlestar is probably one of the best gaming experiences you can have.
It is, but that game can be ruined so quickly by one idiot that can't play the game right, or somebody that's casual into the game.
I will agree with that. I mean, I think this is, if I hear this during a game of Battlestar, I will tell somebody else to play my character. If I hear somebody else, because I play with my gaming group, so we all kind of understand that we're in it to play it. If I hear somebody say, okay, we need to get one of our dials into red because we're getting close to being at number 4, and that way we can guarantee the sympathizer is on our side, I get up and I say, I'm not going to play anymore, because you're playing the mechanism, not the game at that point.
I have a great Battlestar moment, and we kind of let it go and we kind of ignored it. But the last time we played, we handed out the loyalty cards, and everybody looks at it. You tell everybody, just be quiet, look at your cards. But one buddy looks at his cards and says, "You are not a Cylon," and then he sets his card down, and we're all just like, because we know that's not what the card says.
Well, and the thing is that
he was serious as a heart attack when he read it, though. He was trying to bluff.
We have rules. We have rules that I say when you pick up your Cylon cards, you count to 10 in your head and put it down. Because if you just look at it and put it down, well, then that gives away information. I mean, it's just we have all kinds of set things that we do. There were two things, epic things in my opinion, in my gaming group. There was one where we were trying to figure out who the Cylon was, and the player, they were playing Roslyn, my buddy Jason, and my buddy Jason, he never swears ever, and so I'm going to swear, so earmuffs if you got a problem with that, but the thing comes up, and the whole thing, you can't say I'm adding a 3 or whatever. You say I can help a little, I can help a lot, I can get us almost there myself, that kind of thing. And it was like yellow and green and purple would help. Everything else hurts. And he's got his cards, and he says, well, it's like, I can help quite a bit, actually. And he flips the card in the middle, and it hits something, and it spins over, and it's a red 5. And he looks at you, shit.
It's like game over right there. You know what I mean? Like, that's...
It was like we're just
and worst part of it.
It's like, and then the best ever session I ever had was when people were basically accusing me of being a Cylon the entire time, and I was, and they were just like, you're a Cylon, you're a Cylon. I was like, no, I'm not a Cylon or whatever, and so I was Gaius, and so I managed to keep myself out of the brig. I was hiding it well, and talk amongst yourselves. My guy's here. I'll tell the story in a second. Ha!
What about you guys? Any of you guys a fan of the Battlestar game? You guys played a lot?
I like it. The last time I played, though, it was one of those things where the guy tried to throw in every expansion and just kind of ruined it. It was just way too much on the table and way too much going on. Yep. And after that, we decided to scale back and only do the base game and maybe one expansion. But probably the best Battlestar story I ever got is we played with 5 people, and the game was taking 2 to 3 hours long. I was a Cylon, and I was trying to figure out. Nobody had exposed themselves yet, and I was trying to figure out who else was a Cylon. And there was a guy. The way he was playing, it's like, all right, you're probably it. You're probably it. And then some other guy did something that I thought, man, that was stupid, because, I mean, that'd be only something a Cylon we would do. The Cylons win the game. We flipped the cards over. There were 3 Cylons out of 5 people. The guy messed up when he put out the loyalty card. So we spent 3 hours playing with 3 Cylons. Hey, we won, though, so that was kind of cool. But the humans were obviously pretty ticked.
Yeah, they were like, "What the hell are you doing to us?" Nah, I understand that. Yeah, that's a game that definitely has. It's got some. It's such a fragile game. It's one of my favorite games. I think I've had so much fun with it, but it's so fragile. A little mistake like that, a little bit of a mistake at the shuffling, or as Lance described, getting a card to get tossed over or something like that. When you go to throw it in the middle and you reveal that you're a Cylon, it's just, oh no, like that kind of stuff can just flip the game right over. You're like, oh damn it, it's over. Like that's sort of. It's such a bummer when you set up such a huge game and then early game something like that happens and you're like, all right, we got to wipe and start over. Most people won't want to do that an hour plus in.
Yeah, or you get something. You've got an observer who decides to walk around and start picking up people's loyalty cards and then spill something.
Yeah, and going, ooh, yeah, get the hell out of here.
Or they start yelling at somebody's girlfriend and, I told you he's not a Cylon. And I'm like, oh, you stupid.
Just side thing. Jam Strat asked on the comments if anybody was interested. Are any of you guys going to pick up the Ghostbusters Cryptozoic Kickstarter? I'm not. It's too rich for my blood, and I don't know enough about the gameplay at all to even consider it.
We talking about Ghostbusters?
Yeah, somebody had asked if anybody was going to be. What would we think of it? Anybody picking it up?
I might go retail on it. Just pick it up with the discount, but because I'm a big Ghostbusters fan. But whatever.
Yeah, me too. That's same for me. I mean, the Kickstarter like minis cash grab thing. I'm kind of over that. I haven't done that since the Zombicide Season 2 thing, where they just keep piling on 10,000 extra minis and don't really have any rules finished and all that. I don't want to get into it until I know that the game is solid, and then I'll just pick it up at retail and see how it is at that point.
All right. Well, here I'll finish up my story, and just remember I was Gaius, and everybody was accusing me of being the Cylon, and I was hiding pretty well, I thought. And then so we got there, and like the other Cylon hadn't declared yet, and I had a pretty good idea who it was. You get that feeling when you're playing. You get that gut feeling. I thought it was my buddy Andy, and we're sitting there playing, and then we get to level 4. And nobody's declared yet, and we're still doing pretty well, and so everybody gets their new loyalty card, and so then my turn comes up, and I said I'm gonna look at my buddy Craig, and I turned to Craig and I said, hey, give me your loyalty cards, and so he shows me his 2 loyalty cards. I knew he was human. I was almost positive. I look, and he's human, and so I go okay, and then I hand him back to him, and I said he's human. Because that's one of the big things everybody says when you decide as Gaius or anybody, if you get a chance to look at somebody's loyalty card, you need to know exactly what you're going to say. You have to tell yourself, when I see this person's card, especially if you're a Cylon, when I see if they're a Cylon or not, I need to decide exactly what I'm going to say, and you can't fudge, because if you fudge it all, people are going to think it's weird, and they're going to start accusing you. See, so I gave him back and I said he's completely human. We can trust him. And so, of course, the normal table talk, we can trust you, or the whole thing. And so then it gets back around to my turn, and nothing bad's happened to me yet. And I declare, and he's directly to my left. I declare, and and I do damage to the Battlestar Galactica or whatever I could do at that time. And then I turned it, and then then he went, and then he does his turn, and I looked at him. Why didn't you declare? And he was like, and he looks at me like, what? Why don't you declare? It's like the perfect situation. You need to. Oh, you're so stupid. And then he's like looking at me, and then everybody was like looking at me and looking at him and looking at me and looking at him. And he's like, I'm not a Cylon. I was like, yeah, you are. You're a Cylon. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm human. I was like, no, you are absolutely a Cylon. You just got a Cylon card, or maybe you had it at the beginning. I don't know. He's like, look at me, and he looked at his cards again, which is like the perfect. If anybody ever looks at their cards again, it's like basically a sign. What's my Cylon power again? You know, like what can I do? and then immediately it was like, throw him in the brig. I convinced another player that was human that he could have possibly been a Cylon, and he actually double checked to see if he was actually on what side he was on.
That's
and
great.
they threw him in the brig, and then Andy declared, and then it was all over for him. And it was just idiots! The human mistake has now been eradicated. But yeah, But see, that's what I love about games like that. Is like you have those stories that like like you don't. I've said this many times, and I'm not bashing on people that like Euros because I like Euros too. But nobody, at least I haven't, has ever said, "Oh, I remember that one game of Kingsburg where I actually turned in 2 extra gold at the end and got 3 extra victory points, took me to the win." You know, nobody has ever said that. And it's just not the same gaming experience. It's not better. It's just not the same.
It's just different.
There you go.
No, that's why on a game I usually I love to mix in like one Ameritrash type game and a Euro game, just so you can get 2 totally different experiences when you play.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know,
and no doubt, it's always after the night's said and done. The game we're talking about is the Ameritrash game we played.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the randomness. I mean, I think because it's the swings. I mean, you know. Somebody asked me this once. I think, and it's so snooty to say this, but I mean, a Euro has like a more in-depth experience, you know, and just like it has a more full experience, if you will. Like you play it and you just kind of, and you know, each turn kind of feeds into each other, and so it's a longer planning type feel to it. And whereas, like, you know, as I said, it's like the thematic game or trash game has the swings, it has the random, it has the unexpected, and I think that's the big difference. And like you said, it's neither good nor bad. They're just different. They're 2 different experiences.
Well, it also has typically a lot more social interaction too. It's just built to more interact. I mean, you could play with the Euro game and have your head looking at your board the entire time and never even talk to anybody else. And typically your thematic games aren't like that.
Fair enough. See, look at this. We're kind of agreeing almost.
We are.
Then let's stop now before it turns into something really bad.
Well, I was gonna say. I mean, when do they come in? Doesn't the old folks' home close down the community room right about now? You know?
I probably didn't say when I got on, but I'm in San Diego right now. So right now it's only 9 o'clock.
Ooh. Well, aren't you late?
Putting
It's
time.
gonna be you're gonna turn on some Matlock later and
Murder, She Wrote. Come on, man.
Turn on some Murder, She Wrote and drink some Metamucil, baby.
Oh, there you go. Make sure you get your prunes warmed up, and then you.
Oh God.
Hey, you know what? I think it's awesome that our senior citizen here is willing to join us and hang out with us this late. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's the last time I'm going to join too.
Oh, just are they sending you away or what? No, okay. Well, I appreciate. Anybody got anything that they coming up on their channels or anything they want to pimp before we finish off for the evening?
I got nothing.
Got nothing.
We just released the episode where we had the folks from Happy Mitten Games on talking about their new Kickstarter game, Ether Magic. It was a lot of fun because Lee from Happy Mitten Games was drinking White Russians as we were recording, and so it got funnier and funnier as the recording went on. So that was a good time. And then next week we're going to release an episode where we talk about XCOM. So if you want to hear our thoughts on XCOM, we'll be talking about it then.
Oh, okay, cool. You know what? I hardly. You're one of the few podcasts I listen to. So I mean, so you should be very thankful.
We are honored. We are honored.
No. I don't have time. I don't have time to listen to all this stuff. You know.
Oh, since Marty probably won't say it, go vote for Rolling Dice and Taking Names on the Golden Geek Awards.
Absolutely.
You're right. I won't say
it.
I will.
Test of the humor in that new episode too, because I'm probably a little bit more than halfway through from my commute back and forth to work, and I was laughing pretty hard in the car. So,
Have you gotten to the Rankum part yet?
what part was that? Sorry.
The game where we play Rankum.
Oh yes, I was just getting through that. Yeah, that was pretty hysterical.
That's when the White Russians kick in for Lee. So
I could tell there was something going on at that point. That's about as far as I made it though.
Well, since I got you all here, and I don't think I've asked this question of you guys. I may have. So if I have, just reiterate your answer to me. And this is not my conspiracy theory question, but I'll ask that too if you want. But what if you could play any one game with any one person, living or dead? What would it be?
oh geesh.
You can think about it. Go ahead. And you can go maudlin, or you can go like celebrity, or you can go, however you want to go with it. I mean, because I just find the answer interesting, and there's no obviously right or wrong answer, but I've often thought just being a fly on the wall. For the games of diplomacy that supposedly like JFK played with members of his cabinet, just to watch that, I think would have been interesting.
That's a good one.
I don't think I would want to play because I would have lost horribly, especially if I got in Italy right away. One person got the joke of Italy. Okay. Barry, you got something for me? One game, one person, or it can be a group of people if you want it.
Nah, I mean, I would have liked to play anything with my mother. I got into this hobby after she died, and I would like to see how that went with her. Spend some more quality time with her.
That's actually really common. I've had a lot of people say like, I wish I could have played one more a game of cards with my dad or my grandpa or something like that. And that's totally real. I mean, it's a buddy of mine in my gaming group, buddy Craig, and I hope I'm not being too personal for him. I don't listen to this, but his grandmother just passed away. She was 100 years old, and which it's crazy, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like. It's sad, but it's like also what a good run kind of thing, and I mean he even said he's like I wish I wish like I could have had one more good afternoon with her because she had gotten kind of frail and weak in the last few years of her life and it's just that's human nature. We always want more, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you got for me, Keith? One game, group of people, living or dead? Would you want to play like Battle Cry with Abraham Lincoln?
Strip poker with Marilyn Monroe.
That is an excellent answer.
Great answer.
That is an excellent answer, and that is honest too.
Are you a good poker player?
He better hope he was.
Yeah, I was gonna say you better hope you are.
I'm good at lying. How's that?
Yeah. No, there you go. Marty, what do you got for me? You're agonizing over this.
Yeah, so I wanted to play Letters from Whitechapel with Jack the Ripper, but he has to be the cop.
Who do you think it was? Who do you think he was? Jack the Ripper.
Didn't you say that? Oh, I have some.
They say they're pretty sure who it was now.
Yeah. They found that Polish guy from like a mental institution that they found his fluids on a thing.
Oh, I haven't heard that. So they think they know who it is?
Yeah, they think they got him. Yeah.
They think they know who it was, but and they don't even know what really happened to him. He just kind of like because there's no records or anything back then.
He like died in a mental institution or something, but they had one of the like a shawl that one of the prostitutes is wearing, or she was wearing, and I guess it had some of his fluids on it or something as well, and it took them like years to extract it and whatever. Anyway, they might have pinpointed it. I don't know.
Wow.
Hold on a second here. Just a second here. I just pulled it up here. I'll tell you.
It's pretty damn interesting, though. I got to be honest. Like to be able to extract something like that from something that old is pretty fascinating.
Oh. Gosh darn it! Now I can't. I'm trying to read through the Wikipedia article really quick here, and talk amongst yourselves. That's a great answer, though. I like that. Matt, what do you got for me? What's your answer to the question?
Let's see. I would say I would have to kind of go with one of my favorite games. First of all, I mean, I haven't gamed with a lot of you. Actually, I don't think I've gamed with any of you really. And any of the Alaboomer type folks, I've gamed with very few of them. I have gamed with Rodney, and he's a great dude to game with. He's got a great gamer attitude. We are very similar in the type of play styles we have. So I think I'd like to play like a big Battlestar Galactica game, like 5-6 player Battlestar Galactica game with like Rodney and some of you guys. I think that would be a fun game. Just one of those cutthroat games that has a lot of screw you type of stuff, but with true gamers, if that makes sense. Like where I have a great time playing with my friends, but once in a while you'll have somebody in that group that isn't quite into the gaming aspect as well, so they might get a little bit, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it, but like they might get a little bit upset or, kind of, they won't be as into the game as I am, you know what I mean? So like they might take it a little bit more personally that I just spent the last 15 minutes accusing them of being a lying bastard or something, you know what I mean? So it'd be great to play that with a group of guys like you where we're just everybody's into the spirit of the game and we can throw accusations wildly and no one walks away from it hurt. They're all in the spirit of the game. So I would say something like that, like a great like long-term trader game, Battlestar, but with a group of like true gamers, like real hardcore gamers. I think that'd be awesome.
Fair. Aaron Kosminski was his name.
That's what I think it is, yeah.
Well, that's the Aaron Kosminski. Here, just quickly, was a Polish Jew who was admitted to Colney lunatic asylum in 1891. He was named as a suspect by Sir Melville MacNaughton in his 1894 memorandum of a former Chief Inspector Donald Swanson. Blah 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 blah. Basically, that whole thing is that they were able to extract that he was because of his habit of self-abuse. So we'll leave it at that.
In the blood from the woman at the same time or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and it isn't conclusive, but there's a lot of arrows pointing in that direction. So there you go. You want to play Layers of Whitechapel with a crazy Polish guy. That's what you're telling me.
That would be.
Go ahead. It would be interesting. Crazy Polish guy. I don't know.
No, I said that would be interesting though.
No, it would be. Yeah. Whitechapel, as far as the whole chase the guy games, I think that's a really good one. I enjoyed that one.
I agree.
Anybody?
I like
or Spectre Ops.
I think Spectre Ops looks cool.
And I might be getting a punch in the face to this one, but I mean, after like my first 2 plays of Dead of Winter, I kind of got bored of it, and Plaid Hat, Plaid Hat's been kind of missing, on what they've been doing. I mean, I realize Dead of Winter, a lot of people are going crazy for it, but there's too much gaming the game in it. There's too much, so you get extracted from the immersion of the game, which I don't like. The best part of the game is that crossroads stuff, and it just doesn't happen enough. It just doesn't ever seem to come into play enough, for at least when I've played it. And Plaid Hat, they've got the big hit obviously with Summoner Wars, and don't get me wrong, I love Colby to death. He's awesome, but that BioShock Infinite game kind of went nowhere. What was that weird Remnant City, or what was it called?
Remnants?
City of Remnants. That kind of went nowhere. The games have their fans, but they really haven't had a hit for a while. The mouse game's fun. I played that with my daughter.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Dead of Winter's not a hit. It's not hitting for you, but it's selling.
Well, no. Dead of Winter is selling off the shelves. Don't get me wrong. And you know what? To Isaac and John, I credit them all the way for making a game that people really enjoyed. It's right there where people want it to be. But I don't know. For me, it was just kind of meh. You know, I don't know. If I wanted to play a game with like kind of some secret trader thing or whatever, I would just play Battlestar Galactica instead. You know, I don't know. It's weird. It's like it's cool that they got the big game, but I mean, I guess for me, they just haven't really had any games that really just destroyed me lately, and or really ever. I mean, like I said, I mean, it's like they've had games that I like, but not games that I'm in love with.
Marty, you played Spectre Ops, correct?
I did. I liked it. I got the one thing I like about it is because all the people that are looking for the hidden guy all have unique roles, and so you take those abilities and you try to synergize together to try to corner the guy or track the guy down. But I enjoyed it the one time I did play it.
Cool.
I mean, I don't know. I'll check that one out. I mean, it has a theme that I like. The whole tracking. I mean, I love playing Fury of Dracula, but and everybody always says, "When is that going to get reprinted?" And I say repeatedly, that'll get reprinted once they make the combat good, because that game, the game is amazing and fun to try to track down Dracula or be Dracula, but when you actually do have the final confrontation where you run into people and like have to fight, the game it just becomes a bogged down mess. They need to alter the rules for that. So people always wonder if it'll ever be reprinted, and I think it will. I mean, just because there's enough people that are interested in it, but. Yeah, there you go. That's that. Hey, my follow-up question to the question I just asked you. This exact same question, but you have to pick a fictional person. So, like, a fictional person in a game you'd play with them. Like, just so while you think about that, like, a lot of people have mentioned, like, playing, like, a mystery game with Sherlock Holmes, something like that, or what was the one that I actually, you know what? When somebody asked me the question back, I've always said I think it would be a hoot to play a game of like Arkham Horror with Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, and I think that would be just to be able to play a game with that kind of game with them, but no, or like I think it would be great to play a game like if you could actually take like the fictional people from Futurama and like and play like a game of like I can't even think of the name of it. Play the Space Cadets game, the first one.
Yeah.
Each person has a different role. Like you would never happen, but I mean, playing something like that, it's just a weird fictional world. So there you go. They may have an answer for me. No one? I'll go backwards since I hit Barry up first time. I'll go to Matt. Fictional person in a game.
Man, I don't know. I'd have to really think about that.
Well, just go the Keith route. Find like a fictional hot chick in a game where she has to kick.
But that was going to be my answer.
You're stealing it from Keith.
I was going to go with the three-boob chick from whatever the movie was.
Daphne from Dragon's Lair, right? Is it Daphne?
Yeah, that's it.
Daphne.
There you go. Sure. She seems kind of dumb though. I'm not sure I'm into that.
You know what? Fine. Since you're copping out, Matt, do you believe in any conspiracy theories?
Not really. No, not that I can think of off the top of my head.
You're no fun.
Conspiracy theories? No, not really.
I love one of the things I love about like driving late at night is listening to oh God, I can't even think of the name right now. The old Art Bell show. Now it isn't Art Bell, it's George Norrie who does it. Coast to Coast. Basically, they have the open phone lines, and the people can call up with their crazy "I'm a psychic vampire" type of things, and you can talk about the supernatural. And I remember they gave an entire segment to people to call in and talk about the like monster children that like live in Mexico, and that isn't the name of it, but I mean it's like there's all these reports. There's this new big supernatural thing of like these creatures that make themselves appear to be children, that they have straight black eyes, and they like have pale skin, and they can like take over your mind and make you do things that you're not supposed to do. And these people call in at me, and they're 100% bought into it. I mean, either the greatest actors of all time, or these people truly believe that they've seen these things, and then they've actually like had to fight them and stuff like that. And it's spooky. I mean, it's like because what if like I always say, and my wife's like, why do you listen to this? And I was like, because there's like 1,000 people that call in with these crazy stories, right, in a week. It's like only 0.1% of them have to be telling the truth for there to be something really frickin' scary out there. And if you think about that, that's what I find interesting. Is like, I don't know if aliens ever showed up on this planet. Probably not. But it's if you go back and like you because I mean everywhere when you were a kid, at least when I was, I mean I used to read books about UFOs and stuff like that, and I would buy into all the stories, and I was like, oh yeah, this is totally real, and aliens are real, and Bigfoot is real, and the Loch Ness Monster is real, and you get all into that stuff, and but I would but now as you get older, you get skeptical and you start like thinking that it's just not happening, and but I don't know. At some point, maybe it's that's when you start like thinking the weird like tinfoil hat thing. Well, maybe that's what they want us to think. When you get older, that's when they get into your mind and convince you that stuff isn't real, and the black helicopters and the cattle mutilations and whatever. So I'm just saying, be careful.
No.
You never know. I lost half of our. You're just like, okay, he's nuts. And my cat is going crazy. I don't want to pay any attention to you. Leave me alone. Jeez.
The conspiracy theory I have is we just finished talking about Plaid Hat, and I literally just got an email from Colby that he's shipping me a package. So.
What game is he shipping you?
It's probably the Summoner War Alliances.
Gotcha.
Marty, what do you got? Are you a fictional person in the game? You got one for me?
No, I couldn't come up with one. Not that was cute, not was cute or funny or anything like that. And if it's not cute or funny, it's not even worth saying.
I got to play Sabacc with Han Solo, right?
Yeah, well, that would be fun. Playing X-Wing with Chewbacca,
Anything with Chewbacca, but you got to let him win.
That's true.
Nice.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, or like some game with Captain Kirk would be fun. Anything with Captain Kirk would be fun. Just I don't know if maybe not the 3-layer chess. I don't think I'd play that really well. But all right, gentlemen.
I wonder how bad Chewbacca smells.
You know what? I'm sure he bathes.
Whatever. He lives on that rust bucket with another dude. He's a stanky old dog.
Very good. Well, cool. Well, just I appreciate you guys taking the time to be on, and I appreciate the people that took the time to watch us and the questions and what have you. Just all of you that were on there. If you ask questions, I do apologize for not getting to your questions or your comments, whatever. I do appreciate you saying so. Cool. Well, thanks a lot for everybody. Does anybody got anything last they want to say? You want, like I said, I told you just to put your stuff underneath your third thing. I'm not going to have you pimp your thing. But if you guys watch my videos and do my stuff, I appreciate that very much. And Keith is kind of our hanger-on, but he should have his own show. Honestly, Keith, you should start doing something. But
that's why I just come here. It's so much easier.
Fair enough. But seriously, check out.
You know how much effort it takes to do what these guys do? I did like 4 videos. It was a pain in the ass, and they suck. So
no,
I appreciate what these guys do.
They're better than the stuff I did when I first started, so don't worry about that. But no, take the time to watch the videos, listen to their podcasts, and just we're going to try to be doing this every Wednesday night. I think is what we're kind of falling into. It seems to work out pretty well. We might switch that up, but definitely keep your eyes open, and thanks a lot for listening and watching.
Good night, fellas.
Everybody. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.